In Nigeria's social justice space, what happens when the fight for what is right collides with loyalty to a friend? Recently, the saga involving Verydarkman and Blord stripped away the noise, exposing a harsh reality about some of the nation's most prominent public figures. When Blord allegedly used VDM's image for commercial gain without consent, activists who built their reputations on speaking truth to power suddenly went quiet. But when VDM pushed back, the narrative quickly shifted. Instead of condemning the initial wrongdoing, figures like Seun Kuti and human rights lawyer Deji Adeyanju stepped up, not to demand justice, let's analyze it.
Public activists and legal advocates are often viewed as the final arbiters of justice. The public relies on them to weigh facts and identify wrongdoing without being swayed by the status of the individuals involved. This trust is a professional requirement. It depends on a track record of ideological consistency, the idea that the same rules apply to everyone, regardless of personal ties. This standard faced a significant challenge during the conflict between Verydarkman, or VDM, and businessman Linus Williams, known as Blord. The core allegation was unauthorized monetization. Blord allegedly used VDM's image and identity to promote the BillPoint platform without consent. Legally, intellectual property theft is an objective matter. Resolving it requires a look at specific evidence and an adherence to a due process framework that exists independently of the people involved. However, when VDM sought accountability for disinfringement, several prominent figures in the activist community moved to redirect the narrative, largely ignoring the IP evidence in favor of a different focus. This created a significant tension. It raised a difficult question. What happens to the pursuit of justice when the person accused of a wrong is a close ally of the people meant to condemn it? Omoyele Sowore was a primary figure in this shift. He centered his intervention entirely on the issue of police overreach, effectively moving the conversation away from the original intellectual property dispute. By framing the situation as a fight against systemic institutional failure, specific allegations against Blord regarding VDM's image were largely sidelined in public discourse. Seun Kuti released a video supporting Sowore. Ignoring the legal merits of the IP case, he focused instead on his absolute trust in Sowore, noting that Sowore is a friend with total access to his home. This is a form of conditional deflection. By highlighting a separate, legitimate issue, like institutional bias, Kuti provided a respectable framing that prioritized personal loyalty over the facts of the original complaint. A standard legal analysis would have acknowledged the validity of the IP theft claim while critiquing the police response as a separate matter. Kuti's defense skipped that first step. Using a systemic issue to help a peer avoid accountability creates a surface-level appearance of activism while actually serving a specific social circle's interests. The response from barrister Deji Adeyanju presented a different problem. As a human rights lawyer, Adeyanju's entire profession is built on the requirement that evidence dictates the outcome. Yet Adeyanju publicly declared that his mind was made up regarding his friend, stating that no amount of proof could change his opinion. In standard law, evidence bridges accusation and verdict. Adeyanju's stance nigh passes that bridge, suggesting the verdict for a friend is decided before evidence is examined. This removes the core of legal integrity, making due process conditional and facts secondary to personal relationships. Social media activism intensifies these dynamics. The hyper-visible nature of these platforms forces influencers to take immediate public stance, often choosing to protect their network to avoid the social cost of remaining neutral. This environment exposes friction between a public moral position and the private need for social belonging. When these collide, the need to protect a friend often outweighs the commitment to a principle. The VDM and Blord saga has left a lasting impression on the public's perception of activism. The original copyright dispute eventually became a secondary concern to the way public figures handled the fallout. Because they centered their defenses on personal trust rather than the facts of the case, Kuti and Adeyanju are now viewed as active participants on a team rather than impartial observers. Maintaining impartiality requires specific actions to preserve trust when personal relationships and evidence conflict. First, acknowledge the primary offense. Second, prioritize evidence over social belonging. Finally, recusal. stepping back entirely when bias makes objective judgment impossible. VDM's refusal to defer to the activist elite highlighted the absence of these steps. His pushback served as a reminder that self-respect and objective facts should not be traded for social acceptance. True justice cannot recognize friendship. When activism operates on a sliding scale of accountability to protect its own, it functions as a private interest group rather than a public movement.